All right, let's get started. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Super Yacht Show Pavilion 2026 Palm Beach International Boat Show. Let's see. Where do we start? This is a topic about the one big beautiful bill. Does anybody here know the difference between tax avoidance and tax evasion? 10 years. That's right, 10 years. So, yes. Today, we're going to focus mainly on the tax and legal and process of using this in the yacht. So, we're here to show you that 2 plus 2 is not always equal 4. And so we'll go through some of that discussion today. So, before we begin, I do have to have a disclaimer, as most presentations on YouTube and everything else have. This presentation is an informal process only and does not constitute any legal or tax advice. Please consult your own professional advisors for your specific situation. Also, we will stop early and give plenty of time for everybody to ask questions. So if you could just please hold your questions till the very end. Who is this seminar for? Let's see. We have the one big beautiful bill is really for people who want to use depreciation with our topic today. So it's like existing charter operators who are looking to expand their fleet and doing it in a smarter, more tax efficient way. High income individuals who want to offset some active income and are willing to participate in a real business. People who are looking to enter the yachting world and want to structure it correctly. They want to do it the wrong way and then have to backtrack, which is a lot of work and very expensive. Buyers who are already planning to purchase a yacht and they want to land that strategy. Business owners who have a boring business and it's profitable and they want to mix that with a very fun thing to do, like owning a yacht. For those of you who have passive income, there are some ways to offset that as well. So we'll get into more of that in details. I am WR. I'm the founder of Advisor Near Me. I've owned many businesses, and my current project is called Advisor Near Me. It's a matching tool to help people find the perfect experts, money coach, investment firm, financial planner, insurance agent. And so it's an AI-based tool that helps do that match. We also have educational courses and content to help people build wealth. Joining me today, we have JB. JB is from South Africa. He's a 25-year veteran yacht broker with United Yacht Sales. He's seen firsthand how buyer behavior is changing this market. He's not just a broker, he also has his 3-ton captain's license. He has raced sailboats competitively and has sailed most oceans in the world. Also joining us today is Julie. Julie is an IRS enrolled agent, and she is the founder of My U.S. Tax Advisor. Is this the clicker? There we go. So Julie works exclusively with U.S. citizens, green card holders who hold foreign pensions, investments, and businesses abroad, and non-residents for U.S. connections. She advocates for simplification of international tax reporting through her leadership and policy. When not working with clients, Julie contributes to professional associations and spends her leisure time on her own yacht. She is going to help us separate what's real from what just sounds good to both of you. We also have Michael, president of Lifetime Yachts USA. Michael McGee is a serial entrepreneur with 25 years of experience across multiple industries. He's a North American importer for Lifetime Yachts and Invicta Catamarans, bringing distinctive international yachts to the U.S. market. His focus is on introducing modern design, performance, and innovation to today's yacht buyer. With a background in corporate entertainment and business ownership, he offers a practical perspective on how these vessels fit into both lifestyle and business use. So Michael, we appreciate you bringing your manufacturing perspective to today's conversation. All right, let's start with Julie. Everyone wants to pay lower taxes. Everyone wants to pay no taxes, or at least delay the tax bill as long as they can. Depreciation expense allows people and businesses to lower your income and pay less in taxes. There are many different rules and strategies on this topic. The One Big Beautiful Bill restored a few of those strategies. So Julie, what was it like and what is it like now? And can you give us a little bit of background on how the One Big Beautiful Bill has changed things?
Well, actually, the One Big Beautiful Act is reinstated 100% depreciation. What happened was, during the DCGA, that law has changed with actual depreciation that people were able to take for many years. So, once it sunsets in 2026, it was supposed to be sunsetting to 20%. So if you purchase a new equipment for your business, you could only take 20% of that. And then here, that's it. Now, the Big Beautiful Act kind of reinstated that 100% depreciation, and so far it's reinstated permanently. We never know the permanency of the tax law, so that's the reason why we always want to talk about timing. So the timing is the big issue here. What it is that the Big Beautiful Act is a big thing right now. Everybody's talking about it. But in the end, what happened was all of the businesses always took that depreciation. It's just right now we got 100% of depreciation. You need to understand the difference between the depreciation that you can take this year and depreciation that you can take next year. The things that are going to continue to evolve. And the 2026 is a perfect year because it started last year. If you put a boat in the water and you purchased it and you put it in service, for example, in charter, fishing charter, or even in day cruise, you wouldn't be able to take the depreciation last year if everything was not lined up properly. 2026 is right here. So it's March, it's early enough, you can purchase the boat, you can enter the contract, you can retrofit the boat, you can start advertisement, you can put it in charter, and you can take the depreciation this year. Most of the things that are involving this is we have the two issues, the passive and the active. And we will just explore that a little bit later on. But the point about it is, if you are willing to enter into a business, you can actually use this depreciation to offset either passive or active income. So this is what this is about. The bill, the depreciation itself is not weird. What's neat is that they actually gave us 100% this time instead of the 20 that was sunsetting before the Big Beautiful Act. The requirements are stringent, but we will discuss all of that. And you do need to understand that before you actually go into the taxes, you need to understand the structure, you need to talk to the brokers, you need to line up everything, and you do need to use people on this page, for example, or your own tax advisors, legal attorneys, and brokers. But the point is, you learn about what needs to be done first, what else you need to avoid, and don't spend entire development playing it as a business, but actually running it as a business. And we're going to talk about that. So that's what's new, but everything else stays the same. And the IRS is looking at how you use your boat and what you use it for. Even if the Big Beautiful Act changed the depreciation. So now we're going to be looking at this a little more. This is one of the reasons why the presentation is kind of skewed toward the tax, because the tax avoidance and the tax evasion, the difference is 10 years.
Exactly, okay. All right, so I can imagine that there's like an incentive by the government to do certain things, whether it's build a new factory or buy it out. You're wanting the economy to get stronger and better, right? And so that's why they put these things in place. Surely that would be something that you see in the brokerage world. You tend to see that with clients, the demand of what they're coming in and buying.
I certainly definitely. End of last year, the economic surge in December with the financial currency targeted flow in time. It does take a while, and it's not a quick process setting up a company that they will work in, from a survey, putting a few on the birds closing, obviously all the holidays in December, banking and wiring, and I guess there was a big surge in that. And a lot of people some weird noise in the service now, and you can go out there and charge.
Yeah, I imagine that if you two of these clients come in on December 15th and like, I think I should buy a yacht. And that's probably not the best strategy. What about from the manufacturing side, Mike? Do you have any stories or anything you call us on that?
Well, like Jane, he was saying, we did have a little bit of a surge here at the end of last year with clients coming in, they're aware of the big beautiful bill. We start to see the end of the year time. We think that they're going to be able to available, put all the structure together, put it into service, and actually have an operating business that the IRS would consider to be an actual business that would qualify for this situation. We did have a client come in mid-December and what we call buy the home and do all this, and really just wasn't practical. So unfortunately, you can see that when they see the headline longer that you do this right, and they move it in a way that you won't fall under the IRS's ire, just to become a little bit earlier in the process. And that's where the growth has become really important. Sometimes the bit of first person that the client reaches out to, and asks for those who are working with the law, you're going to get those kind of questions, and they need to help guide them to the right people to help assemble that team. For the manufacturing side, especially for us, we do like semi-custom boats. The timeline isn't such that you're going to call us up and we're going to be able to have a boat sit in the water for you. But usable or something like that. If you're late in the year, that might work for you. But December is not a team that approach this. You got a lot of business owners that are used to buying an SUV in December and getting the write-off for that year. You think that same kind of mentality applies to the yacht. And it can be quite risky to approach it with that.
Timing is everything, right? So I imagine that going through the process takes longer than anybody's going to expect. And I'm sure there's roadblocks and hurdles that take 3 months when it should have taken 3 days. Especially when you're talking about licenses, governments, all those things. So, Julie, where are some areas that you see people getting off track when it comes to trying to put this kind of tax strategy in place, whether it's for a yacht or anything?
They want to go first, and after that, we decide that they're going to make a business out of it. That's the biggest issue that I've seen so far. Most people don't understand that you need to put the structure in place first, because you need to structure your investment. You buy an asset for a business. When you buy an asset for a business, it has to be a business already set up. So you need to set up either a seed partnerships or anything like this. Corporations, whatever the business structure that you're going to operate under, you need to set it up first, because the business is what's going to be buying the asset. And after that, you need to talk to also to a tax professional who understands in tax planning and advanced tax planning, because you need to know how those expenses and income and depreciations and all of those assets going to be flowing onto your personal tax return. Because most likely you're not taking that because you want your corporation to pay the taxes, the least amount of taxes. You do it so that you can offset some of your taxes on your personal side. So you do want to talk to a tax professional. So the attorney for this structure is the tax professionals for tax planning before you purchase a boat. And then you involve your broker into it, because the broker will understand what else you're going to need. The broker will know who else to connect you with. They will know if they need licensing. They will know if it's a super yacht and you need a crew. They will know if it's a fishing charter and you're going to need to deal with the 6-pack license. I have no idea. I don't want just a regular leisure boat. So for me, I just sit on it and change your barrels most of the time. But anyway, at the end of the day, what you're going to need to understand is that this is a business, and this is what the IRS will be looking at as a business. If you're not separating your expenses, if you're not separating your finances, you need to open a different bank account for your business, just like you would have a regular business. Because yachts and boating and fishing and horsing, for example, they're all looking, they're flagged in the IRS system. They're looking at the pleasure. You're going for a fishing trip. You're not taking somebody out on a fishing charter. You're fishing. But if you can prove to the IRS that you're scrubbing those fish guts off that deck later on, and we all know how wonderful that is, on the fiberglass, after that, the IRS will go, well, no, they're not fishing. They're acting in the boat, but So this is where I see the most accounts. And I actually was part of that. I'm like, we're gonna buy a center console. And I was like, great, we're gonna go into a fishing charter. So I'm like, oh no, I don't want to sit under the sun for too long, so let's get something bigger. So we ended up buying a yacht where I didn't have air conditioning instead of, sitting under there. But after we were considering the charter, and unique about that is you need to understand you're setting up a business first before you buy a boat. So you need to talk to other people who are actually running the business, and you need to make sure that you talk to manufacturing, that you involve the broker, you involve an attorney, you involve the tax professional, and you also find somebody on his platform to do your bookkeeping, because that's going to be a big issue. Because the IRS loves documentation. And if you don't happen to create this documentation, meaning that just like your income clock, you can't reinvent it later on. When did you change the oil? What was the hours? You have to write it down when you're doing it, right? So IRS loves that. So that's where I see people go wrong. They buy the asset first, and then they put it into a business. I always did that, and I'm a tax person. I should know better, but anyway, that's the biggest issue.
Yeah, I have to say, I had a similar kind of thing in my history when friends went to go look for a house for the first time. They'd say, you have any advice? And I say, yeah, don't go look for the real estate first. Go find your, the person who do the mortgage first, the bank, whoever it is. Find the right product, let them know who you are, go through, qualify yourself, figure out where your risk needs, because it's not fun to go look for $1 million house and you can only afford $250,000. It's disappointing. So, all right, very good. So it's not simple as just buy a boat and have a government bid for it. Is that what you're saying? So it's not free. Because there's a strategy to it, right? And even if someone is going to go buy a boat and they talk to the professionals, they have the team on they have their team, it's good to start with that. Because then you can decide if you actually want to do this, if you actually want to use the one big beautiful bill, or you might say, like, I really don't care about the bill, I just want to buy the boat. But at least you have that option in the very beginning that you can go down the path that you want. That's really good. So, let's see. So, there's different strategies for that. And when they come to you, say they do it the correct way. Let's say they come, they find the right people, they build the right team, they come to their broker. And they say, okay, now this is what I want to do. These are the different things. And the broker's not going to be in charge. They're not your tax advisor, right? So, JP, during that process, you're trying to assist. You don't want to lose the sale of the boat, right? Like, you don't want to get in the way of that. But you also can't run to the moon and be the expert on everything flying a boat, right? So what are the things that you do as an amazing broker to help your clients through this entire process?
Well, asking the questions that you see, what do we want to use the boat for, this area of operation, how you're going to flag, is it going to be U.S. flag, is it going to be foreign flag, or you plan it's going to be Europe with the roads, and the China's there, they're going to be the Caribbean, Bahamas, are you using foreign crew, Americans, the good thing about all these things, are you also going to try on the boat in the States? Is it going to go to Long Island? If you think about this, having been foreign crew on the boat, where to work the rules, link with the journalists backing that. To rotate all these things into consideration. We obviously, as Jim said, structuring the company, how they're putting down the passive active in managing the boats. I mean, most likely you can step back. When they see that the work is involved, they don't want to actually be actively trying to control the group. They're already running a billion dollar company. We don't need something else.
There is.
Make the professional for that.
Yeah, there is. I might, do you agree with that? Have you seen that kind of legal structure and setup and how people acquire their boats in the manufacturing point of view?
Yeah, I mean, on the sales side, like you were saying, is you really don't want to get in the way of a customer buying the boat. They're very mostly attached to it. And it might feel a little cowardly too to try to explain things. Then if you want to try to take advantage of this tax strategy, then you really have to really have things aligning up properly in the structure, the huge talking about new things stuff. So it adds a little bit of headwind, can add headwind to the deal, but you don't really want to mess them up. However, as Jamie was saying, is by asking the right questions and framing what your goals are of ownership, what we're trying to achieve, and helping them assemble the right group of people to be involved can eventually help the deal versus hurt it. It might feel like creating that headwind on it at first, but once you help them assemble the right kind of experts around them, especially if they're not super experienced in the marine industry, they will see the value in that and having the right people involved. You at first might see that as expense and there all those people involved, but the numbers can be big enough that doing it wrong will have a big impact. So a lot of times on the supplier side, we get involved in those conversations because we might be talking to the client about the design of the boat and the intent of the boat, like we're doing a semi-custom boat or we're making modifications because they want to use it in a certain level of program, and the workers are involved in that, and you can see that they're focused about its usage and how we're involved in it. So we've definitely seen that the bill kind of influence in those discussions.
I can see that. I mean, I think the same thing kind of happens with real estate and when someone wants to buy a beach house. They can't really afford the beach house without renting it out. And some people probably start the boat service thing, I want to charter it. And like what you did, Julie, look at that and decided it wasn't for you. Right? But knowing that purpose ahead of time, I think would be very valuable, especially for the broker process. Do you have a lot of chartering customers that come create a brokerage?
We do also selling. Some people, they want them to go sick, and some they enjoy this course of jam jobs. It just varies.
Very good. So let's see. So from a tax strategy, let's walk through some of the numbers. Can you give us some things to talk about on numbers? What boat kind of sells for, and how you would set it up, and what kind of person has the income that works well for the one big beautiful bill depreciation strategy?
Well, let's put it this way. First of all, there are two different setups, the active participation and the passive participation. One of the reasons why we decided not to do our own shower was because both of us have full-time jobs. I'm a tax professional, my husband is a big lawyer. So at the end of the day, we were looking at, we wouldn't be able to actively participate in a charter, and we wouldn't be able to scrub the deck every day and go and run and find the people to rent it to and everything and captain the boat. So we would fall into a passive activity. Passive activity is just like rentals, and we don't have that much rental income. So, for example, if you actually do have a W-2 job and you or your wife can get a boat right now, set up a charter or a fishing charter, you can get maybe a little food, but you perform a lot more activities on that boat than each crew individually, and you do 100 hours plus wherever they do, then you would actually qualify for active participation, even if you do have a day job. But you do need to participate in the actual business, reading about it and making phone calls and reading financial statements doesn't really count. You need to oversee the work. Most boat owners know how it is. I see the boat owners warehouse bags, so most of us know what that is. So active participation in the business will offset your active income from the other job. A governmental job where you represent the business that you actually participate in doing it. So what this depreciation does with you is, and I think that's what we didn't explain yet. In the first year when you buy a boat, let's say you buy a set of boats for like $800,000, right? You buy that, you put on your licenses, you get everything done. You can actually, the bonus depreciation means that in this year, if you buy it in this year and you put it into the service this year, you can actually take the entire amount as a deduction. So if you make it in your other business a certain amount of money, let's say a couple of $100,000 is not to a broker about it. You want to know exactly where you're looking for. It's a 1 year, one-time thing. It's like a windfall thing. You're going to take that deduction in that year. $800,000 for the boat, for example, you have about, let's say, $900,000 in active income for all of the other businesses that you do job in the regular business, and then you put that boat into a charter. You make $125,000 and you pay out $100,000 in expenses. That's what leaves you about $25,000 in income plus the other, did I say 900,000? So 900,000 plus 25,000. And you bought a boat. You bought a boat for $800,000. You deduct that out. You basically reduce your taxable income on the active income side to 125 instead of 925. So that's this year, and this is why this bonus depreciation on the active income is so palatable for people. Because your active income is, it's a high bracket income if you're going into the yacht ownership or boat ownership. So hence likely you making good money to buy a boat like that. So that's going to help you to offset. Now there's another side, passive income. Like that's what I would need. I would probably hire somebody, or hire you, or hire everybody, hire a rollout. Like you guys deal with a charter. I just want the check at the end of the month, or hopefully a check at the end of the month, and then bosses. Then that is good for people who already have passive income. If you're already in the partnerships that you are just a partner and they just shove in the income off of you like rentals and things, then that's a perfect strategy. Then you can actually use that to offset the passive income that you already have. The passive income is not the income you're actively working for. If you're working in a W-2 job or if you're actually working in a business, that's active. And that's the one that acts high. But the other one is acts just as high, but it's a different bracket basically. It's a different bucket of taxation. So this is what it is about. It's about having a tax strategy. And this is why I want to talk to somebody before you. This is not a DIY. This is not I'm going to learn how to do that myself. This is not a real Zoom situation because this is where the problem is going to come in. You want to talk to an actual attorney. You want to talk to a tax professional. You want to look at your tax return and go, hey, you know, this year we're actually making a lot of money in our business. What can we do? Well, if you are willing to get another boat, if you're already in a charter business, if you're already doing fishing charters, or if you're already doing day cruisers, or, you know, we're not talking about mega yachts right now, that's a completely different situation. Mega yachts, like what Maria works in, she's going to be, her boss is going to be doing a passive. That's going to be a passive write-off for them, not an active, because multi-family, for example, both bars have the yachts, the mega yachts, but only one of them is actively being chartered. $1 million a week is what the charter is going for, but she's not writing it off as an active participation. That's a passive activity for her, and it's going against the passive income that she has. So, but that's the differences between them. And I know that numbers are usually a strong suit for tax professionals, but I'm good at tax law. I'm not a bookkeeper, so but that's why you want a bookkeeper, because at that point you're going to have to show the books. Yes.
Okay, in your example, let's say your income that year is $700,000.
Yeah.
Purchase price is $800,000. Can you apply that to the next year?
Yes, the $700,000 will be wiped out this year, and $100,000 will be carried to the next year. Next year, when you have active income, it's going to offset the active income. If it was passive, it's going to offset the passive income.
For your active example, how many years is it recommended or is there a look back that you must own that boat in one charter, beginning with your following, you've taken the full appreciation?
It will depend on the structure. If you talk to the attorney, it will depend on the structure. But after you take the depreciation, the basis for that will become zero. That means that later on, when you actually sell that boat, you're going to have to recalculate. you did not, if you did not, yeah, I know. But at the same time, if you upgrade to a bigger boat, or you take a different, because most yacht owners and most boat owners will not just sell the boat and go out. That's it. They will upgrade to a bigger boat. If you upgrade to a bigger boat, hopefully your bonus depreciation is still there. We'll get there. So you can actually, that active income becomes the income that you're offsetting with this bonus depreciation. For example, right now, if you sold the boat and you bought a new one, that bonus depreciation that you took, if you took it before DCGA came in play, if you took that bonus depreciation, you're gonna have to recapture it, and at this point, you're going to write off of it, and it's gonna offset.
There's another component to consider in that. You definitely want to consult a marine attorney, but there's an opportunity where you will convert the LLC that you purchased the boat into a C corp, and you may actually separate that recapture and avoid the recapturing from the other entities. So this will be a place where, and I will definitely consult an attorney and Julie on that kind of stuff. There is opportunities here in work that one of them would be, depreciation, like you go long enough that the depreciation would resell it so low, you kind of avoiding that big recapture. Two would be, upgrading to a larger boat, and any way to do it, basically can gain or fall or fail and be the entity structure change. And you want to be planning, and that's where the planning comes into play. The start is when you start out, you want on entity structure, you won't be able to leverage that to.
And this is why structuring is important. You have to talk to an internal individual or AI ChatGPT or we can recommend because although they are language learning models and they can predict things, but they need to get wrong sometimes. You're in there.
Triggering event of the C-corporate transition is a connected future. If you do anything that should be provide 2 to 3 years, or you think that next year conversion to C-corp would be okay?
I remember experienced it personally. My function later early this week, we had been through that, and we didn't discuss that sort of timing. It did seem like it was a couple of years down the road when he made that election. He also made a point that hasn't been tested in court. However, it's been successfully defended in Milwaukee, which is a good thing. Right? So they never did actually make it to the court because the IRS kind of backed off on that. So I think there's not necessarily legal precedents, but there is operational precedents that switch makes sense. Once again, that's why bonus week or talk to your marine attorney and they can guide you on that. And the big upside is there's some precedent to it, but it hasn't been tested far enough that you're legally understand.
Yes, hold on one second, I'll get right to it. So, when you are looking to charter a boat, I learned yesterday that the boat has to be made in the United States. Michael, could you talk more about like what that structure is, what that process is?
Oh yeah, I think making the way maybe sort of new. I think if you're new to get into the business, you get like ideas of chartering, you maybe try to take advantage of that tax thing. There's was it PBIPB, it's Pastor Method Services Act, which will make it very difficult to charter a boat, especially in an active charter situation. If the boat was foreign made, can it be done? Yes, that would be a variable call. You can call the boat as a variable call as a passive or active owner of that business. Well, if you're looking at something that's going to be following an easier thing to charter locally, where clients are working both here in the United States and to train in the United States, it's ideal the legal involved will both be made in the United States, free, U.S. crew, and owned by the U.S. Owner. So it's one of the things that you're talking to the broker on the front side, and then you're returning to make sure you're compliant with those laws, and just the PBSA, but also U.S. postal laws or things like that. It's not something we go into without having a plan, understanding those rules, because generally resulting to not just past challenges, but regulatory challenges. And if that now this can even follows restaurant law, obviously.
And now to that, anybody who wants to take your trolleys to Bahamas, talk to somebody who understands actual international tax laws. Because once you cross into international waters and you get to different countries, those countries can no longer buy that even if you're getting that return. So you want to talk to not just the regular CMA, but somebody who understands the international implications of that.
Along the lines, some of the things you want to consider, they talk about a bigger load, maybe a super yacht that is operating both in the U.S. waters and or exclusively in the Mediterranean. For example, a flag state of the boat will matter if it's considered a put into operation as a U.S. entity that will be paying taxes. There are strategies for really involve finding fraud them and with the U.S. Going into that, you need to have a instruction to law so that you've got the right documentation, the right solution to make sure that you do qualify for it. You all go being in there and can take the tax deduction. And there was some challenges from the IRS that go on in terms of the United States, also address, and it does not. Or if you have U.S. flag state, no matter where it travels in the world, it's U.S. flag, it qualifies either and suspicion. So it just depends on where you want to look flag, how that will be treated.
Thank you very much for the great answers.
I was just wondering, do you know the way to rolling depreciation into commercial real estate or any kind of real estate?
You think about it, if you depend on your structure, and you, wherever you purchase that real estate, and if it comes from a business, and it's very specific business, so talk to your tax person, but it is possible, you just need to know, that's what I'm saying, it offsets the specific, it offsets the different buckets, active or passive, and it depends on how both of those, this depreciation and what you're trying to offset is set up, that's where the rubber hits the road.
As long as it was a 1031, I can tell you that.
Yeah, you don't have to, okay, so TCGA, that's a great point that you made. TCGA removed the 1031 exchange for the boats. So there is no more 1031 exchanges for the yachts and the boats. You can't exchange them in the state during depreciation reduction.
Okay, and I have something about this 14-day rule. I'm a related tax professional myself, so can you tell us a little bit more about that to you?
So the IRS is looking at the codes, the fishing also, and fishing can be very hard because you look at it as a pleasure. And I don't get that because I love tax law. I do it for pleasure, but they see it as a job. But if somebody goes out and does fishing on their road, they look at it and they do tournaments and things, they look at it as a pleasure. So you need to understand two things. They're already looking at the fishing charters or at the boat ownership as a pleasure side of things. If you use your boat for 14 days or more a year and it is in the business, they will actually regard it as a personal asset. As a business is not going to be viable anymore. So the 14-day rule is kind of like, they look like it's a vacation thing, like, oh, you can take 14 days, it's fine, you know, you can spend 14 days on your boat, but in reality, it's a slippery slope. Because what they're looking at is, how did you spend that 14 days? Did you bring your family home? Did you use it for leisure? Or were you actually in the bill exchange the ducking valve for, 2 or 3 days? This is what they're looking for. You can spend 14 days on the boat for leisure, but after the 14 days, if they get you, they will see that it is a personal asset, personal pleasure craft that you're trying to put it into the business and look like it's a business and you're trying to write off the expenses basically. So this is the big audit track. This is brings the big point. Document everything. Every single thing. Not just like, oh, I opened the boat today. No. This is what I did. This is where I bought it. This is how I did it. And this is kind of like a maintenance box with boats. They're a necessity. You have to make them ready for it. Not afterwards when IRS hold them, 3 years later, because their audit programs runs about 2 years later. Their audit and tax returns for 2023. So this is the point. 5 years from now, 3 years from now, by the time they get to it, you're not even going to remember what you did in that boat. And they require contemporaneous records. So document everything. If you hire somebody, make sure that all of those things will document what they're doing on your bill, because you are going to be proving to the IRS that it's a business. Have a separate bank account so that it is a business. So this has to run like a regular business. The 14-day rule sounds good, but it's a very interesting track for the IRS. You have to prove to them that it was under the 14 days that you spend that. As soon as you over 14 days, we can do budget track. It's not a business anymore.
So you have 13 days. But do you still deduct 100%? I thought.
Yes.
But in 15 days, you're out.
Well, look at it like this. If you are using your boat for, oh, my family coming over, we're going to go out fishing today. Oh, my family coming over, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. If you're using that boat, it's not a business asset anymore. It becomes a personal asset. Well, you're chartering it to somebody else for market value. You're not chartering it to your family because. Right.
If I deduct it to income, if I target that company for they bring on clients to the table.
It's an entertainment film. There is another entertainment film. If you're using your boat for entertainment, that's not a good thing either. So I understand you're talking about the traveling itself. So you got to talk to your tax person about that and tell them exactly what you're doing because assumptions don't matter a lot here. So, but entertaining travel is when you're entertaining clients, when you're entertaining somebody on your boat, that becomes you can't write off expenses at that point. So it's not really a business at that point. And we talked about that before. That there was a realtor who was showing boat houses, and that's a big YouTube thing I think or something. And she was showing houses on her yacht, and it was questioned. But her yacht was a business vehicle. She was using it as a business vehicle. She wasn't entertaining her clients. So she was bringing her clients to the house in that boat to show the house. So there is a
Roosevelt. Yeah. One house in this was planned with one challenge. It was about showing use of like super high with people who are buying boats, houses on the canal, and stuff like that. And part of that experience was taking showing that what passed from the water, not just on land. And that made it not the entertainment for that was a picture called showing that one's about the change by IRS. You gotta be careful. Being in between, like we clients on the boat and then we installing and we go using here we go into the even if it's a separate company, well we consider that not arm's length because you own both organizations and you really combine that together and you release. There has been discussions on the is too busy. You're really on fine line and the IRS kind of seems to like so really careful when it's you have to kind of just talk about that.
That's why documenting everything is the most important thing. Who did you talk to? What did you talk about? I mean, you don't have to actually write it out because they will read it. There's a person that's going to be sitting across the desk from you, representative in front of the IRS, and they're going to be asking you, okay, so this is what it is. So you will have to write it out everything. I want to make a point, you really need to talk to a maritime attorney if you're going to be chartering a boat. And the boat, I believe, will find rules do not allow the owner or the principal to be on board where you charter this company.
Well, you could be the owner of the boat if you're on the boat in the capacity of like crew in it's about active or passive. It's all about the active or passive. Depends on if it's active or passive.
I'll be able to can.
I would defer you to, I would say, speak, talk to your me and attorney on this, they won't find that, cool. In my experience, it's solid.
Because see, if you're chartering a boat, then you're actually chartering for a business, and if you got a captain's license, the name of the owner of that boat and everything else, and you actually preparing and doing things for the boat, that's active participation. However, if you are there as part of the passenger or enjoying it or overseeing it, that's different. That's the personal pleasure part. Oh, we're going to Italy or we're going to Mediterranean, this charter. Like, oh yeah, may I come? That's personal. That's the time you're talking about. But altogether, from the tax law point of view, I'm telling you straight from the tax point of law, if you are actively participating in your business and you work in that business, you only vote, you're doing things as a group, you are actively participating and you are allowed to take that negotiation at that point because you're actually doing the work. You're not just a by passenger sitting by or sitting on the wheels. You're actually doing the work. So it's like me working in my own business. I'm preparing tax returns, I'm working in my own business. I'm not just.
And I remember in 2021, 2022, and the business, to help restaurants come back, they took restaurant and entertainment expenses and things like that. Instead of giving you a no write-off, partial write-off, they just said, get back out there and start spending money 100% all the way. So that only lasted a few years. That was really good. So can you tell us a little bit more about like a legitimate business deduction versus like a non-deductible entertainment thing that, we all try to stay in the gray area, but that's what it is.
Well, the whole point of Big Beautiful Act was to revamp the businesses in the United States. So businesses are very cash-strapped and cash-conscious. So what they did is they gave you the 100% depreciation. Like, okay, here, go buy that equipment that you need. If you're running a business charter and you need to use the lot a lot, you're going to have wear and tear on the boat. So go buy a new boat and we'll give you 100% depreciation. But the actual business expenses have to be business expenses. They need to be necessary business expenses for the ordinary. The things that learning businesses are spent on, the paper they need, you're going to spend all kinds of money on the boat. We all need that everything needs to meet your Coast Guard standards, especially for viewing passengers on the boat. There is a lot of regulations that as a tax professional, I have no idea, this is why we put up here on the stage. But the bookkeeping needs to be there, so you do need to pay the bookkeeper, you do need to pay an attorney for the information of your business, you do need to pay a tax professional to do your taxes, and you do need to understand that whatever you buy for the business needs to come from the business bank account, not any personal, and then you kind of reimburse yourself or anything like this. It has to run as a business, just as if you go to check in a box, I guess. They write off the straws, the napkins, and everything else. So when you're running a charter, you're going to be writing off things that you provide to your customers when they're there. But if you are starting to buy expensive bottles of champagne to a charter that runs for your dance, that's not going to be very expensive business. So the business expenses have to be what normal businesses would spend, what they actually would spend.
All right, very good. So we have less than 10 minutes left in the presentation. Thank you very much, Michael, Julie, and JP for joining us today. JP has offered to invite everybody who has questions or wants to speak one-on-one with any of our panelists. His group is just doing happy hour from 4 to 7 today. It is United Yachts. It's at 7, Ring 7. Ramsey.
representative.
Ramsey. And so now we're going to sign up for Q&A.
Sorry, as the releases go I just want to make sure I understand the eligible operational expenses. So let's say I use the road for 6 months, and I hand it up to somebody else for 6 months to try to work it. During that 6 months, I have $500,000 of revenue, $400,000 of expenses. At the end of the 6 months, I have $100,000 check from the company. That shows $540,000. Are you saying because I spent more than the 14 days on the boat, that the $400,000 is not eligible expense, or if it's documented that way, it doesn't mean that? And all this is in the liability company that's sitting 30% legal, and I have 100% nurse, it's a collapse.
And here was the question, but from what I understand, you're talking about 14 days?
Well, it's assuming I don't take depreciation. I'm not trying to play in the gray area.
Yes, you are at a high risk will be looking at you using it in for pleasure. You're spending the time on your own for yourself. There are going to be looking at it as a business. You're going to have to work on that boat, and you're going to have to prove the hours to actually work on that boat while you're on that boat. Because if you spend your time on the boat, and I'm not talking about dry dockage. We're not talking about when it's sitting in still, so there's no air conditioning moving. We're talking about in a still. If you're spending the time in a still in the boat, that's going to be personal private pleasure. Doesn't matter what you're doing there, they're not going to do, as long as you're not working on it, and it's a personal, they're going to look at it as a personal. It's a pleasure craft that people are using for business. And this is where you're guilty until you prove it. And it's still at that point, because you have to prove that it's not a pleasure craft, that it's an actual business to them. Because if you don't, it becomes a pleasure craft, and it becomes just like my boat, where I go expenses.
So if I'm, in his example, if I'm staying on the boat for 3 days, but I'm there changing impellers and changing strainers and oil changes and, exercising the gaskets and the seat rocks, while I'm also having a beer, is that, and I should document all that, obviously.
You should document all that. That's the whole point. You can have a beer after you're done with exercising the gaskets, as long as you're not sitting there exercising the gaskets, flushing the toilet and going like, well, for 8 hours, that's what I did. No, if you are changing the gaskets, you need to write it down. From this to this, I changed to those. Most of your day needs to look like you're working in the boat. You can't, change the regular for 3 days. Although, when I first got the boat, it took us about 2 days to change the car. But the point is, you can't really do things that people look like, well, that's not normal, You can't be talking about changing something and it taking a week. It has to be a regular work. But you need to document. If you document, take pictures, whatever you have to do, write it down. You're going to have meetings long anyway. Write it down. So take pictures. Then you can spend that time. You can spend 3 days on the boat.
It also allows, if you're trying to, this ball team, your strategy will be active participation or passive participation. The scenario you're talking about in all this 14 days and personal use and set time on and the goal, if you're in a passive, or if you're in a passive strategy, then you can't be on the wall for any kind of personal things, but you don't have to document any of your activities you want. You may not meet the threshold, which is $500. He wouldn't meet the threshold within the past of all the decom and consumption. So he won't have to document all that if you're in this strategy. And if you decide you want to be an active or production strategy, then your active participation must be provable. And you can do it the main way. It can start when you decide to get in the business. And every boat show that you go to, every boat that you look at, and every trials, and all of that will count towards that $500. So it doesn't have to be just the notes or running the marketing campaign or whatever it is that you're active, Yes, but you're going to have to document that from them. Not thinking back and trying to say, well, I was at this goal so long. If you really want to be defensible, and you're serious serious about this, you go into this with this strategy. You would say, I decided I'm going to this business on April 1st, and I went, you know, to the marketplace, and I came to the Palm Beach Boat Show, or in I was looking for a boat on that going there. That is active participation. And if you have, if you establish the team board, including the role, their whole control, and while traveling, you're discussing the boat essentially, you can even include that time. It's going to be when, you know, and the last thing is just like when you're thinking about it, so when you're actively doing things to follow it keeps.
When the business needs to be rent. You know, you can't just think of the business like, oh, I'm going to write up all expenses. No, you actually will have to prove to the IRS that you are trying to make a profit in your business, because most of us are in the business to make money. So that's what they're really looking here too. Otherwise, it becomes a hobby. And a hobby income is taxable, but the expenses are only deductible after the hobby income. So you can't take the expenses out.
Love all your questions. We have to get on stage because the next people have to get up here. So, yeah, meeting's over at United at 4 to 7 o'clock, cocktail hour, and we can meet all of them and ask all your questions. And boiler up.
Thank you, everyone.
Hey, Pete. My sister, Lester.
Yeah, boss.
Yeah.